Welcome to Healthcare IT Today. I'm John Lynn, together with my colleague and friend Colin Hung. The world of technology and healthcare are ever changing in new and novel ways, and that's why we love this stuff. So join us as we discuss the latest healthcare and health IT news, meshed together in new ways, which help generate ideas and new perspectives. Plus, we'll have a little fun along the way. And today we're going to be talking about ViVE 2024 in LA. And be sure to follow the show on social media at the hashtag HITSM and our personal accounts at TechGuy and at Colin_Hung. Plus, check out our 18 years of health IT blog content at healthcareittoday.com. It's exciting times for us. We're finally officially a media partner of ViVE. We got a spot on Media Row. We're going all in with ViVE. Appreciate all their partnership. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to ViVE. We're on the cusp of the spring conference season, John, so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, this is the first year we're going to be an official media partner of ViVE, and we have our own little spot at the show. I'm excited for that, and I'm just excited in general for it. So I thought it would be really fun to kind of talk about that today on this episode.
Yeah, and people need to watch social media. We'll be doing a little meetup for a picture. We're also doing Sway Health meetup in the evening. So come check that out and, come by the booth, say hi, even if you don't have a video with us.
Absolutely. So John, right off the top, what are you looking forward to the most at ViVE 2024?
So, I'd say the answer is always people for any
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
like hanging out with smart people, and ViVE has done a really great job with that. Like they've done a good job of recruiting good people in partnership with Chime. I think that was a smart partnership for them to bring the CIOs out and bring them, to the table in a really interesting event. Obviously, they do a great production. So I am interested to see how did they produce it this year. It's in LA, which, by the way, the LA Convention Center, not my favorite place. Maybe I'll like it more because of how they do it up. Maybe they'll change my mind about the LA Convention Center because LA Live nearby is cool. But, the convention center is a little old, at least last time I went, so we'll see what I think about it this time. But yeah, I'm interested to see how do they do up the environment. The branding of ViVE is always over the top and in your face, like, and so you feel every bit of it, the experience that they create. So I'm interested to see how that is, and also I love seeing how the CIOs react to it because to be fair, some CIOs have been to a lot of conference over a lot of years, and this is more of a young hip fresh, vibe that is, I think, is different for them. So, I always love that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different than you. I am very much looking forward to being in LA. I do love going to that
city. Snowing in Canada.
Yeah. Okay. You didn't have to say that, John, but yes, it's because it's a lot warmer than it is up here in Toronto right now.
You got a good point.
But I do actually like LA Live area. I do love the convention center. I think it actually would be really good. And I do agree with you. I think I'm very interested and looking forward to seeing how ViVE does the experience, because that is something that is a hallmark. It's a calling card of their events. It's how they do the production value is just so great. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I think that's a really good thing. Of course, number one, as you said, is the people. I'm actually also very interested in seeing and checking out the startups. And I think to me, that's actually one of the nice things that's a little different than all the other conferences we go to, is they do have this really big startup pavilion. They have a lot of startup pitches. And it's a chance to really see, for me anyway, just kind of where some innovation is happening, where some of the bright minds are trying to take healthcare and trying to do things. So I can't always say I'm impressed with all the startups. I do think some of them might need some more help, but I am impressed with their energy, and I'm impressed with their willingness to break a norm, right? And I do enjoy that part of ViVE, and I think they do it really well. I do think they give them a really good stage. I think there's really good programming for them. And so that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to at this year's event.
Yeah, it's a good point. That is something I enjoy at ViVE as well, as the specialty programming. Just looking, it looks like they have the startup pitch area. That will be, something you'll like for sure. The cybersecurity pavilion, which, security is such top of mind. I actually haven't dug into the Insights program. I'm not sure what that is. They have a nurses at ViVE. They even have a Palantir AI boot camp, which that's interesting to see something that specific, especially from a sponsor. But Palantir obviously has a lot of work in AI. So I do love those specialty areas. And I think the thing I like about the specialty areas at a conference like ViVE is that in some cases there's a lot of noise, and I'll be interested to see also how ViVE's evolved from compared to health. Will there be a lot of life sciences or payers or stuff like that or not? So I think I'll be watching that. But when you go to the specialty areas, you're able to find more of the signal. So if you care about cybersecurity, when you go to the cybersecurity pavilion, you're going to find people like that. So I really like the specialty areas for that.
Yeah, I do. I mean, other than the audio problems, I do like the format of how they do the sessions and the ones that are in the exhibit hall, right? Like they're very intimate stages. They're right there in the middle and the heart of everything. So you're not having to like wander around a giant, sessions, to find the breakouts and so forth. Hopefully they can fix the audio. I don't know if they're going to go with the whole rave, those headphone things, but no matter what they do, I do enjoy that because it's just nice to be able to just walk and then like, oh, hey, that's pretty interesting. I heard something that's kind of cool. Let me stop in. That's really hard to do when you have a closed door kind of breakout session. So I do appreciate that. And the sessions, you're right, John, they have attracted some really good speakers, really practical speakers over the last few ViVEs. And so I'm looking forward to that as well. Like you, also kind of curious to see how the time is going to be further integrated this year and some of the topics that they're going to be talking about over there at the forum there. But yeah, looking forward to just being there amongst all these people and all the friends who I haven't seen, since the fall season ended back in November.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think when you have everything all in one exhibit hall, in some ways you feel like you're not missing something, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to a session and it's just your session, you're not sure what else is happening. In fact, we did that on social media for so long, right? You'd be in one session, you'd see the live tweets from the other. You're like, I kind of wish I was there. And maybe you don't get up and move because you're like already committed, but you could still watch it on social media. Well, when the exhibit hall is the way ViVE sets it up, you can kind of see what's happening. You can see where the energy is and kind of go see, what's happening there. I did that a lot, as I was walking around. I'm like, wow, there's a crowd of people, we all crowds, right?
Yeah.
The crowds draw. We know that's a booth thing, but for vendors as well, you got a crowd, then people are like, what's going on with the crowd? Why are they listening? I got to come. And so, that you can do that better the way that ViVE sets it up.
Absolutely. So John, got to ask you this. Who would be the most talked about company or organization at ViVE 2024?
Well, Healthcare IT Today for sure.
Absolutely. Of course it is. Of course we are.
Healthcare IT Today might be the one that talks the most. I don't think we're the most talked.
That's also true.
we're the most social active. I would put us as the most video at ViVE. We'll see. I don't know if anyone wants to take us up on that competition, but no, one that stood out for me when I was looking through the vendors was AARP. And maybe I'm coming out of CES and what they did there, but they're doing a lot of work in digital health. I mean, they had this huge presence at CES that was, it was over the top. Is crazy, actually. They literally had these rapping improv humorist rappers on stage. So I don't know if they're going that big for ViVE, the way they did CES, but even beyond that, they had so many people that are part of their innovation program for digital health. And ARP's grown beyond just the senior population. It's definitely gone downstream. I went to an event a number of years ago called Life After 50. So you could see they were catering to a younger and younger demographic. And then one of the biggest things that their population cares about is health. And so I'm interested to see what AARP is going to bring to ViVE, and are they going to go all out and bring all these companies and feature them? So that was one that stood out to me that I'm like, oh, this could be interesting to see, what is AARP doing in the health space?
Yeah, definitely. I would not have expected you to pick them, but it sounds really interesting based on what they did at CES. So now I'm going to definitely keep my eyes open for them. Yeah, for me, I think obviously some of the bigger players there, I think are going to be talked about. I think, the Amazons, the Microsoft, those guys, I think, obviously are going to be topics of discussion just because of the nature of ViVE being more innovation focused, being more forward thinking focused. I think what Microsoft's doing, obviously, with their Nuance and their DAX products, I think they're really pushing that forward. And, we talked about ambient clinical voice on the last episode, so I don't want to go too deep into it, but I think what they're doing is pretty cool. And I think a lot more people are going to be talking about that. Like you said, I think we're going to see some interesting moves from the cybersecurity companies that are there. But for me, the one company that I think is flying under the radar, but I think is going to make some noise, is a company I've been a fan of for a while. It's Elation. So they make an EHR that's really tuned for people who are doing direct primary care. But over the last few years, they've really grown their base. They've really improved that product. They've got a lot of new partnerships. And the last few times they've been at ViVE, I've just seen more and more people drift over to their booth and talk to them and inquire about their EHR for practices. So to me, that's the one company that I think will make some noise at ViVE. Maybe not on the scale of a Nuance, right, or a Microsoft, but definitely one that I think we'll be talking about.
Well, it's interesting how many EHR vendors have gone in with ViVE and are going to be there. So I think that's interesting to watch. And you're right, ambient clinical voice, it may be the topic of ViVE. So, but we've covered that a lot. So yeah, I think that what's nice is at ViVE, a lot of people will be able to go get those demos, see the progression, see 5 or 10 of them all in one place. So I think that's a powerful idea. One other that I'd throw out there is Doctor First. I think they're an interesting company that a lot of people don't realize everything that they do, because in some ways they're kind of like the Intel inside all these other EHR vendors. I think they have 300 EHR partners or something like that, right? I mean, hundreds at least, like that they work with. And so they're inside of all of these. And in many cases, they're the PDMP of that, right? They're how their people are addressing the opioid crisis. They also have another company called Backline that's doing some really interesting things as far as engaging patients and telehealth options and things like that. So, I think Doctor First is another company that, it makes noise underground for a lot of cases, right? But they're such an important integral part of what's happening on a number of initiatives that are going to be talked about. So I'm interested to see what they do, and they could actually augment a lot of different companies, especially with the Backline products. So that's a company I'm looking at. And I'll throw one more. Simpler is an interesting company. They've acquired a number of companies. They automate some of the minutia that's bothering a lot of organizations where they can't get enough staffing. It's not something, the product's not as sexy as, say, an ambient clinical voice, right? And so they don't get talked about, but they are solving real problems for organizations. And so I think the CIOs will like a company like that because it's real problems that they're hearing from their users. And so I could see them, making some noise as well.
I think there's one other company that I have to mention, John. It's, of course, our friends over at ClearSense. I think we're going to be talking about them because they are sponsoring the big headliner of the event, right? Billy Idol.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of people will be talking about ClearSense, especially during that party and that event, for bringing an 80s icon to
Are you going to pull a Jason Kelsey at Billy Idol and take off your shirt and jump down from your suite at the ClearSense suite? And
first of all, I haven't been invited to the ClearSense suite.
Oh, okay.
But
we can work on that.
but I probably don't want to scare the audience either by taking off the shirt. So I mean, LA is warm, but it's not that warm.
Yeah, that's fair. It should be a fun event, though.
No, but definitely, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about ClearSense, not only because of their sponsorship of that event, but also just because some of the interesting things that they're doing over there, and should definitely check them out. So that's a shout out to you, Larry, if you're listening and watching.
Data will be a topic. There's no doubt there.
Absolutely. Hey, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Healthcare IT Today with John Lynn and Colin Hung. Today, we're discussing the upcoming ViVE 2024 conference and getting some ideas from both of us as to what we're expecting in some of the companies that we're excited to see. And hey, on that topic, if you want your company, product, or executive to be heard at ViVE or HIMSS, Healthcare IT Today can definitely help. We can help cut through the noise at both of these events to make sure your stories are seen and heard by the most important people in health IT. Reach out to us via our Contact Us page at healthcareittoday.com to find out more about how we can help you stand out at both these conferences. Don't delay. It's just around the corner.
Colin, I don't think people realize, like, even last Hymns in ViVE, we did something like 300,000 video views off of the videos we did. So, it's extraordinary how many people are consuming content from these events. It's awesome.
It's absolutely right. And it's not always about products, right? I mean, a lot of times the interviews that we did, we're just talking to executives about some of the things that were happening in the space, and they were offering their opinions, right? So, I think that's why we get so many views, is because it's not all about, oh, like, show us your product, right? Or talk about your product. It is just talking about the industry in general. And yeah, thankfully, people have shown that they're very interested in hearing that content. All right. So, John, let me ask you this question. What are your thoughts about ViVE 2024 itself? Where does it fit in the pantheon of all the other healthcare conferences that happened during the year?
It's kind of crazy how many health IT conferences there are. Like, obviously I live in Vegas most of the time, and I was there last week, and someone was like, "I'm here for a conference." I was like, "Oh, which one?" And then they told me, and then someone else came, "I'm here for another conference." Never heard of either of them, right? Like, it's amazing how many there are. But ViVE's done an incredible job. It's smart of them to partner with Chime. And I think where I see it fitting is, I see ViVE is basically going to be the CIO conference. That in the fall forum that Chime does is where the CIOs are largely going to go to connect with peers, to be able to talk with them. Now, everyone else that's not the CIO, so they're not necessarily invited to Chime's fall forum and things like that. They're going to go to other conferences like HIMSS and user conferences and things like that. So I think that's where I see kind of playing out between ViVE and HIMSS and other events. But here's an interesting question that someone posed to me. They said, is ViVE going to be more like Chime Fall Forum, or is ViVE going to evolve into more like health, HLTH, right? Where there are, which we saw the evolution of health this year, at least I saw, that it was going to more life sciences and more payers and other organizations like that, which are part of healthcare, right? They're health IT as well. And, will that leak into ViVE, or will ViVE stay more provider focused and Chime focused? It'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out.
Yeah, it is so interesting. It's such an interesting time in healthcare conference land right now, right? We've got 3 mega conferences. I think you can call them those, right? You got health, you got HIMSS, you got ViVE. I get asked this question all the time, like, is ViVE taking over HIMSS? Is HIMSS still going to be the thing? And my answer has always been, I don't think you can look at them that way. I don't see them as one taking over the other or one replacing the other. I think each of them have their own place, and they're each unique. And like you said, I do think ViVE could become the conference for people in the CIO role at a healthcare provider. It seems to have remained focused on that audience. The innovations that are brought up, the companies that are there, they're all related to, hospital-based or physician practice-based technology, right? Whereas health has branched off and done more now in sort of these life sciences space. So I certainly hope that ViVE continues down that path. But I also see, it fulfilling a need and an opening for that startup health community. Like there's no doubt there's a lot of startup events that happen, but they've kind of done it well, where you're mixing that startup community with the established CIO community. And we know that startups really want to get to talk to the CIOs, even though we all know that they're not actually the buyer. But that's still a great thing to have the opportunity to hobnob with those folks, to hear from those folks. And I think they've done a good job at that. And I don't see a lot of other conferences on the docket that have done that for them, right? There's sometimes always this focus on the VC world, like we've got JPM doing that, right? And it's just about investing and investment dollars. Whereas at ViVE, it's really more about showcasing the solution and a little bit less about the pitch itself, right? So I see that as a really nice hallmark. That's where I see sort of ViVE fitting, is sort of this blend of startup and established CIO.
That's interesting. I mean, we do see some of the digital health startups as well at CES. Even South by Southwest has, interesting, area of digital health startups. But you're right. I heard one CIO at a, pretty large health system say, I love going to ViVE for their hosted buyer meetings. He said, because I can meet 15 people in a couple hours. He's like, and they're short meetings. And he's like, because what I'm searching for is not my existing relationship. Sure, I might meet with some of them at an event like that too, but I can meet with them anytime I want, right? Or they're like, if I have a big RFP coming up, I'm going to get submissions from the big vendors anyways. He said, but I need to find that one or two startup companies that could really change the trajectory of what I'm doing that I don't even know I need to create an RFP for because I didn't know that was possible, or I didn't know that existed, or that could be done. And so I think that's interesting, back to your startup angle, right? CIOs are looking for those couple ones that they could partner with often to really solve something that they didn't even know was a problem or they didn't know was possible. So I think that's really interesting to see. The other thing that's worth commenting as far as the expansion to payers and life sciences is, we're seeing a really interesting expansion. Obviously, we have the payvider. Most large health systems have some sort of payer. So that kind of makes sense to bring them in. Life sciences, they're doing more with healthcare. They need the data. There's some opportunities there. So maybe it makes sense. But, it also goes back to like, what kind of CIO are you? Are you a forward thinking one? Or are you an operational CIO? That changes whether you care if life sciences and pharma are there or not.
No, I think all of this is valid. And I think, let's be honest, they're still finding their way, right? ViVE is still relatively new, a new entrant in this space, which, again, going back to your earlier point, it is amazing what they've been able to do in such a short time. And the production value, I think the one thing I really like about what ViVE has done is just shown to healthcare that it's possible to put on a highly polished event, and it's okay. Right? It's okay to be very highly produced and have, that entryway they have into the exhibit hall where all the lights are going on and all that kind of stuff. It adds a little element. Am I saying is it absolutely necessary? No, but it's just
Do you
one of
think
those
it's
nice
gone too
touches.
far? Like, that's what I wonder. Like, because you're right. Obviously, I don't think it's deterred them. They seem to be growing. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think it can be. I think if left unchecked, it could be like, do we need like a glowing neon entry into everything? The answer is no, right? But I think they've so far sort of threaded the line, right? It's like it's just enough production value to go, oh, it's a little bit different, it's a little edgy, a little creative, cool, I like it. But they haven't gone over the top where it's just like, okay, why are you wasting money on this? Like this is pointless. I don't think they've crossed that line, and I hope they never do. And I think they can run it right up to it. So,
Well, and to the
but yeah,
point, I think they've proven that it's okay to have fun, right? Like,
yeah, and
it
I
doesn't
think
have to be
that's my
stodgy.
exactly, and I think that's my hope that other conferences and other events now can go, oh well, I can be a little bit edgier, a bit more creative, and because I think we need that in healthcare. I think that a little bit of fun, a little bit of injection of that will be a good thing.
Yeah.
But John, we can't talk about ViVE 2024. We can't talk about healthcare conferences without getting some tips. So, what are your tips, John, for having a successful ViVE 2024?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because we take so much of it for granted. I think we've both seen it because we've taken our sons to conferences and we realize, oh yeah, I forgot that's cool for you, or that's new for you, or oh, you don't know to wear good shoes. Like, so I don't know. I'm always a little torn on tips, right? Because we take so much for granted. But I think that is, like, hey, there is a lot of walking, drink a lot of water, right? It is nice at ViVE that they provide all the food. We'll see how the lines are at Health. There was mixed reactions for sure from some people that lines were a little long for some of the food areas. So, we'll see what they've done to address that and what they have available. They usually have a diversity of food too, which I love, right? Because it is important. People forget how important it is to eat, to drink, to make sure you're fueled, to be able to make the most of it. Because you don't want to go into a meeting with someone not well fed, not hydrated. Like if you ever do that, the meeting's not going to go well, and it's not going to be effective.
You don't want to be hangry. You don't want to be hangry.
Yeah, no hangry people.
Yeah.
Hangry people at booths doesn't work. Hangry people at me. You're just thinking about eating. So and luckily there's options around as well with LA Live pretty close. So anyway, that would be the first suggestion. The next is everyone talks about planning ahead of time. I would say we used to say follow the hashtag on Twitter, which is still there, right? It's still, there's a nice community there. But yeah, I think we're seeing more and more in LinkedIn. So I think we're going to see an explosion of LinkedIn content from ViVE. It's great, like maybe you discover new companies that you need to go see the second day. So I'd say check out LinkedIn and what people are sharing on LinkedIn as far as ViVE.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think I agree with you. Definitely take the time to plan your ViVE experience. Set up those meetings, especially if you don't have a booth. Take the time to see, to make sure, hey, are there partners of yours that are in the exhibit hall? Maybe make sure you set up a meeting with them, and then reach out to your clients who might be there, right? And arrange, hey, let's go have coffee. Because that is what's going to make your ViVE have the ROI that you want to have as a marketer or as a salesperson. You can't just sort of leave it to chance. And that's true of all of those large conferences, right? You can't just leave it to a chance meeting. You've got to prepare. And then the other thing I would say is a little bit selfishly, but take advantage of the fact that there are media people there, right? Like, don't just send that generic press release around. Like, reach out and say to the people personally, go, hey, like, you're going to be there. It's great. I'm going to stop by. Can I stop by too? And we just chat, or, hey, I got some new news that I thought you might be interested in. But use that personal touch. Don't just leave it to a generic form email. Like, use and leverage your relationship to get these kinds of meetings with the media and with other folks as well. And then lastly, your point, John, yeah, just like it is LA, and it is a very big conference hall. So come prepared, right? Like the food, the shoes, the making sure you know where your hotel is ahead of time, right? Know how far that is, because there is LA traffic to contend with if you're staying far away from the venue. So just some of those practical things. And just pace yourself. I mean, it's a long 3 days, right, to be at ViVE. So don't go all out on day one and then be post for the next 2 days.
Yeah, and maybe that's the other suggestion. Have some fun, right? Like, it's amazing how much you bond with different people having fun that can later benefit you, because that, it goes back to relationships and people. If you have fun with some people, then you create a different relationship with that person that you can then leverage later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're at the end of another episode, John, if you can believe it. Thanks to all of you who tuned in to this episode of Healthcare IT Today. You can find out more details about our show by checking out the programs page at healthcarenowradio.com. And please share your voice and engage with the community at healthcareittoday.com and on social media using the hashtag HITSN. I'm Colin Hung, along with my friend and Health IT collaborator, John Lynn. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.